Hi, Dr. Eric Balcavage, and welcome back to a new blog post. Today we're going to start a series of thyroid success secrets, things that we do or I do different in my office than maybe your doctor, your primary care physician, or your endocrinologist has done, and which allows us to help people get better when they've struggled with thyroid conditions elsewhere. And one of those things that always comes in is when somebody thinks they have a thyroid disorder and their doctor tells them there's nothing wrong with you, your lab tests are normal. So success secret number one is really understanding that lab ranges are extremely broad. And so if your doctor tells you there's nothing wrong, your labs are normal, there's two reasons that that's probably happening. One, he's using lab ranges, which are extremely broad. And two, he's probably not doing more than what maybe is a TSH. There's about 9 tests that I use for a comprehensive thyroid panel, along with a bunch of other comprehensive tests to understand what's wrong with somebody. But definitely running just a TSH in somebody and just using lab ranges makes it really difficult to find out what's wrong with somebody. If you've had your blood work done, then you probably know that that lab range is 0.35 to 5.0. And if you're within that 0.35 to 5.0 with your TSH range, your doctor probably told you that there's nothing wrong with your TSH or with your thyroid. And the important thing to understand is those ranges are really wide, and lab ranges are really based on averages. They're not what we call the healthy range or the optimal range, but they're lab ranges based on averages of people who go to a lab over a period of time. So from lab to lab in different areas of the country, those ranges may differ. They may be 0.4 to 5.0. They may be 0.35 to 5.0. That the upper or lower number may be higher or lower. I call those lab ranges the failure range. And those are like no-brainers. If you're above it or below it, you definitely have a pathology or problem. But lots of people, and maybe including yourself, feel lousy. You have all the symptoms of hypothyroidism, like your hair is falling out and you're tired and you're fatigued and you're constipated, and yet your doctor's telling you there's nothing wrong with you. Well, there is something wrong with you. You know that and I know that, because you wouldn't feel the way you do if everything was working well. The problem is the lab ranges are too wide and too broad. So we use what's called the functional range. And the functional range is the healthiest range that the body works in. And for TSH, that functional range is 1.8 to about 3.0. If you're within that range with the TSH, then your body's functioning within the functional range. It still doesn't guarantee you don't have a thyroid problem, but that is the functional range, or what we call the A range. If you're outside that 0.35 or 5.0, you're in the F range. What happens to most people is they fall between 3.0 and 5.0. Their doctor doesn't pick that up, but when you evaluate somebody using a functional or optimal range, you'll be able to see that. You'll be able to see, and I call that range in between the 3.0 and the 5.0, the B, the C, or the D range. Just like when our kids are in school, if they got an A on a test, we know they're understanding the lesson. If they got a 4.5, they may still be, they're not failing yet, but they're way closer to failing than they are to being in the functional range. So we can pick up problems with somebody's thyroid when it's a functional issue when we use a narrower range, because we can compare you to really healthy people versus comparing you to the really sick people. Most of those lab ranges are established so that 97% of the people who get lab work done are within that range or within that bell curve, and the sickest 3% are typically out of that range. We don't want to compare you to the sickest people, we want to compare you to the healthiest people, so we use the functional range. The other reason your doctor may have told you that your labs are normal and you're fine and you don't have a thyroid problem, even though you're really symptomatic, is that he's maybe only doing one test, just a TSH. Like I mentioned earlier, there's about 9 tests that we use to evaluate somebody from a thyroid perspective, 9 thyroid panel tests, and we run all of those because sometimes there's patterns that you just can't see if their TSH is normal. There's other factors that can come into play and other parts of that thyroid physiology that can be breaking down, not just the body's ability to produce TSH. There may be problems in conversion of the inactive hormone to the active hormone, and so we really need to do a more comprehensive panel, even if a TSH is in normal range, especially if you're already symptomatic. So I hope you got some information out of this, the first blog on our thyroid success secrets. Tune in for more thyroid success secrets later. If you're tired of being sick and tired and you're ready for a change, you're ready for some way to improve the quality of your health in your life, pick up the phone, call the office, 610-558-8920, and ask to schedule for a thyroid consultation. Take care.